Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide and another edition of Q&A. I collected some of the questions from Q&A videos, from other videos as well that I found interesting. So let's head on and see what you guys had to ask. Regarding the Remarkable Paper Pure, would you recommend this over the Supernote Manta versus Boox Go 10.3 Gen 2? Thanks. It really depends what your past experiences are and where your investment already lies. If you're already heavily invested and you are you have a lot of libraries and notebooks and everything in one of these systems, let's say Boox, Supernote or Remarkable, then that is an important consideration to kind of keep in mind because it's not easily transferable between these platforms. So there's an inherent value in sticking to the platform itself. And then the second aspect is that you need to kind of check and see what type of values do you value in a platform. So if you're looking for simplicity, streamlined kind of stuff and all that kind of stuff, then Remarkable and Supernote are the platforms that you would want to kind of check, with Remarkable being a little bit more streamlined and simpler and easier to use, but also a little bit more limited than the Supernote, which is extremely streamlined and maybe has the best user experience balance out of these three, but it also does have a little bit more functionalities. So there is a tiny bit of a learning curve here, but the cool thing is that because of that user experience, it's not in your face. You only need to learn things when you start to need to expand your needs of tools and functionalities. If you want to keep it super simple, it is super simple. You just pick it up, you write, and that's it. But the value here is that learning these things is not like a new submenu or a completely new thing like it is on Boox, for example. It's actually very streamlined and a logical progression of what you've already learned and what you're already doing. So if you want and need more functionality, then Supernote Manta is absolutely a better choice than the Remarkable Paper Pure, and mainly because it's 10.7-inch size, it has a Carta Flexible, and overall the whole design and the whole casing, everything, it's far more durable because it has no glass screen in it, and it has much more functionalities. The functionalities are way more powerful, and if you are tech savvy or you have somebody who is tech savvy, you have the possibility of deploying the Supernote private cloud on your own server here in your home and have absolute and total privacy and control over your data, which is something that you absolutely cannot do on either of these other two platforms. If on the other hand what you're looking for is a full-on Android flexibility, openness, and Google Play Store and the ability to just like go full-on bonanza with everything, then the Go 10.3 Gen 2 with or without the front light makes most sense, but the one with the front light is actually proving to be a little bit of a better device than the one without the front light, but you do get that added distance from screen to the content. So it's something to keep in mind, but it has a bit better writing latency, it has a bit better refresh time. It just seems to be like a bit better of a hardware piece than the Gen 2 non-front lit. Out of the three, Go 10.3 is going to be the most fragile one because it's the thinnest and it is metal and glass. So that's something to definitely keep in mind, but it's also really, really desirable, very lovely design, and it's lovely build quality, way, way nicer feeling in the hand than the Remarkable Pure. Both of these devices, Supernote Manta as well, much, much nicer quality than, in the hand at least, than the Remarkable Pure, but then again, it comes at a higher price. So it really depends what your priorities are, but if you're going for Boox, it's not just a matter of simple, oh, it has much more functionalities, therefore that's what I go for. I mean, it comes at a really steep price, which is Boox has one of the worst user experience and learning curves out there. It's incredibly confusing, it's incredibly frustrating to learning, and not just learn it, but being forced to relearn things that you've learned on at least like twice a year And we're talking about major things that have been changing now from version 4.0 to 4.1 and now to 4.2. So if you were hoping to just use your notebooks, for example, and you don't want to use anything else, your experience between these 3 subversion updates, because we still haven't jumped the major version, we're still on 4, so 4.0, 0.1, 0.2 subversion. Notebook experience and the way that your basic tools, how they are functioning, keeps changing to such a degree that it becomes close to ridiculous to believe that they are actually doing the things that they are doing. So the Boox user experience point of friction is extremely real, and you need to take it into consideration. Whether or not that point of friction is worth the openness, the power, and all that kind of stuff is only something that you can actually kind of judge. So I invite you to watch a lot of videos. For me, for example, I fully acknowledge the point of friction, but I am on Boox. I am on my Note Max, but I am not updating it to 4.2 yet. 4.2 is a lot better than 4.1, but I'm still on 4.0. Why? Because for all its warts and things and issues that it does have, those are the ones that I know. I've learned them. They are a constant. The prospect of constantly changing the ground that you're supposed to be standing on is something that I cannot afford myself for a device that I want and I need to rely on a daily basis. So that is the reason why I choose these things. So that aspect of Boox is very real, and that's something that you do not have to contend with on either the Supernote or the Remarkable Pure. Which one would I recommend? Supernote Manta. If you do have the budget, I would recommend, and I would always go with the Supernote Manta versus these 2 devices. Good review. I wonder how Remarkable intend to handle the debt from their financing round due in late 2027. If sales are great, it will be no problem, but if not, companies normally start preparing for the repayment period by downsizing 1 to 1.5 years before the due date. That is about now. Layoffs now possibly mean that sales are not where they hoped it would be as they prepare for repayment. 2, the absurd US tariffs cannot have been helpful. But I can absolutely confirm that the tariffs have been a complete nightmare and a huge headache for Remarkable 2 and the rest of the world. But Remarkable was also strongly affected by that. The layoffs, maybe. I can't really speculate on that, but it's a really, really interesting and an important point to actually raise, because yes, that's a looming thing, a really big looming thing that's over their heads. But the second thing, why the layoffs now, I think that it has to do, if you kind of think about the layoffs and the change of the management, it seems to me that they've tried something, and in order to try something that they wanted with the new management and everything else, they projected we need this much workforce. So they hired, and they overhired. And as any other business does so many times over and over again, they grow too fast, too quickly, and then you got problems. To me, personally, it seems like that this was more the case. And if you take into consideration just how much they grew and how much they scaled back, it hasn't really scaled back to a smaller size that they were during the Remarkable 2 times. And before that, $1 billion valuation. But those valuations they're completely pointless, as you can probably see here, not in just this example, but in all of them, because it's entirely fictitious. That is entirely at the mercy of world events, wars, political turmoils, climate changes, economy, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's not something that should be relied upon too strongly. Like, it's okay, cool, nice, but it doesn't mean that much in a grand scheme of things. And unfortunately, again, we've seen it here as well where somebody kind of went like, yes, we're $1 billion thing. Great, we've sold over 2 million devices, fantastic. How many have you refurbished? How many have been returned? What is your actual profit? Not sales, but profit. And that's something that you can see in the Norwegian tax system. And it doesn't match the $1 billion valuation or the 2 million units sold. That's something that is not being reported on. And then if you grow that much and the direction where you want it to go doesn't really pan out, well, you're going to have to scale down, pivot, reorient, and try something new, or maybe continue in the direction before the repivot. We'll see. So I hope that their sales are good, because I think Remarkable as a company has a lot to offer. I know quite a few people who work there, and I don't want them to lose their jobs. I don't want the competition to lose one of the major competitors and one of the producers who were driving the standards, certain standards up and setting them. I think that when any valuable producer is kind of having issues, the industry as a whole is gonna have some issues. So I wholeheartedly hope that Remarkable manages to kind of find a new direction that pays off for them. But in there, I think also lies a bit of a problem, and that is similar to how YouTube has been diluted with TikTok, Instagram, and put in whatever else you want in there. I think that the reservoir of potential e-ink or e-paper device customers is finite, and it's not growing, or at the very least, it's not growing as fast as we get to have more devices and more competitors. And that means that if you have this amount of a cake and it was meant to be cake for 3 people, and suddenly you get 9 people showing up at the party, well, someone's gonna go hungry. So I think that's basically what's happening right now, and is affecting inevitably Remarkable as well. That's some intro, Voya. Wow, thank you. The device may not have any exciting specs, but I really like it. Looks like a really solid working body, and I like the design very much. Well, that's a refreshing thing to hear, because that's, I think, the main thing about a design like this. You either nail it and then it becomes a working body and has some character, in which case it doesn't matter if it has a cheap feel or if it's a plasticky thing or anything like it, because then you're forming that emotional bond. And if this design works for you, then great. My issue is that it didn't really click with me. I'm not entirely sure, but it just was this, it felt like a generic piece of tech. It didn't have like an identity or a soul or anything like that. It felt very, very blank. Here's an example, because it's just in front of me. So this is the Go 6 Gen 2, and it's really basic. There's nothing about it until you turn it around and you see like, oh, it has these ridges. It has this kind of nice, it is matte type of a feel, and yes, it's slippery, but it has these little details and little things, and then all of a sudden it becomes a body. It becomes a thing that has character. To me, Pure hasn't managed to actually do that, but it may be just me. It has to do with the color as well. It's kind of this faceless brownish thing. I mean, you take a look at it and it's just a thing, and on the back again it's just a thing. It has nothing daring about it anywhere. It doesn't look bad at all. It doesn't feel bad at all. It's a nice device, but I'm missing the character part. It doesn't have any guts, anything that's like daring other than this one. That's why I love the folio, and I especially love the pink or salmon, faded salmon color. I love it because that's like, oh, that stands out. This gives it an identity. Unfortunately, when you open it up and you take this thing out, then it's like, oh, it's vanilla again. So yeah, it's like a salmon roll with vanilla. Ugh. I second that the backlight is overrated. It seems like the correct device for them to make right now. Connect subscription price still hurts though. The backlight point, yeah, you're gonna have a like very hard divider line there, so it's like either yes or no. There's very little people in between who are just like, I'll take it either way. I think that it should fall into your needs, because absolutely there are situations where you need that front light. For example, let's say that you are in a meeting room and you have a projector and it just projects, and for visibility reasons we dim down the lights and everything else, and the only light that you have is from the projector or the screen. Well, you are in a darkened room, and there your visibility is going to be limited unless you have a clip-on light or a desk light or some other type of a light source. Well, that's where a front light is going to be a requirement. And if we're talking about a device that's supposed to be professional device on meetings and, you know, or studying in university or something like that, you will have situations where you absolutely do need that front light. So that aspect is absolutely there, but I personally would prefer to have an alternative lighting source always, rather than having a front light built into the device, because it has a lot of negative effects that are permanent on the device. If I'm permanently in situations, and whenever I use the device, it's like 90% of the time I need a front light, then yes, I will get a device with a front light. If I need a front light in 10% of situations, I'm going to find an alternative situation for those 10% of situations, and I'm going to enjoy the benefits of not having a front light in the remaining 90% of the time. Amazing intro, thank you. It would be nice if they released a pure Max with 12 or 13-inch screen and a 300 ppi. Well, why not a 13.3-inch 300 ppi device like the Note Max, for example? Why is Note Max still the only one that you can actually get, and the Tab XC, for example, if you want a color one? Supernote? No. Remarkable? No. Why? There's absolutely a market for it. What is the reason not to do it? There has to be a reason other than that they just don't want to do it, because it cannot be that they are not aware of the need, especially for Supernote, for example. They even announced A4. That's somewhere in the wind. So if I had to guess, you know, if it's not Supernote, they wanted to make it, but they're not making it. What else could it possibly be? Could it be e-ink and maybe having issues with them holding a monopoly and availability of panels and the types of panels that you can get? Maybe. Could the pen slip out of that slight opening on the pouch when moving about intensely up and down? Amazing video again, thank you. I absolutely loved the surprise intro. It gave me more of an experience of what it may actually feel like, oddly enough. The opening that you're talking about is this one, I guess, right? So we have the pen here, and it's not held by anything. So, okay, let's not... Okay, nope. 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 Well, it opened and it still didn't leave. And it still didn't fall. I guess you would need to get much more violent than this. But in this level of violence, it didn't slip out. So it kind of passed that level of violence. Where would you grade that level from 1 to 10? Owner of Remarkable 2, Remarkable Paper Pro, and Remarkable Paper Pro Move. Wow, this is exactly what I don't like about Remarkable Paper Pro. There are simply too many details lost in the handwriting, as in the eye in writing experience for inexplicable reasons. The problem is clearly worst on Remarkable Paper Pro. On my Move, I don't experience business details being lost to the same extent. Do you think it is because of the higher PPI on the move? Because if so, replacing the Remarkable Paper Pro with the Pure won't solve it. Thanks for always putting in the effort. Well, thank you so much for the support and for a very important and insightful observation. I think it's a combination of three aspects here. First and foremost, it is going to be regarding the resolution density, so PPI. Higher the PPI, more definition you will have. But these guys are also all using a active digitizer for the pen, for the USI pen that is being used, and that one cannot be recalibrated. It's automatically going to be recalibrating itself and the driver and all that kind of stuff. So it's supposed to be intelligent, but it's known that the precision of a USI device is nowhere near what you can have with an EMR pen. That's why if you calibrate your pen, let's say you begin the work by calibrating the pen and then you continue working. If you move your device all over the place and you've placed it on a laptop or other places which could have disrupted the magnetic fields in the device, then it's a good practice to recalibrate at the start of the day, and you will have excellent precision levels on an EMR device. On Remarkable Paper series, so Pro, Move and Pure, you cannot do that, and you rely on the manufacturer to actually be able to do all of that properly for you. And that's not always going to be the case. The imprecision point number 2 is the USI technology, or the active digitizer and the active pen. The third point is also overly aggressive optimization of the written strokes. And this is something that Remarkable is suffering from a lot. And the case in point why I know that's true is that if you even go to Remarkable 2, which has EMR, so we're bypassing the point number 2, and it's 227 PPI, and you compare it to another device that is also 227 PPI and also EMR, so like getting rid of these 2 points, and you just leave with the optimization of the written strokes. Remarkable 2's algorithm is too aggressive, and that's something that I've always had a problem with, because it optimizes in such a way that it basically loses not only the character of my own handwriting, which then brings me to be disconnected from it, and it yields more messy results and things like that, but it definitely leads to losing fine details such as eyes on the dots and dots on the eyes and things like that. And when you put all of those 3 together, like the Paper Pure or the Paper Pro, well, then it becomes an issue that you absolutely have to kind of think about. The video says 3 weeks at 1 hour of use per day if you watch the official Remarkable launch video. So thank you for clearing that up. Yeah, 3 weeks and the use is 1 hour per day. And also it doesn't say what kind of use, because if you're writing for 1 hour or reading for an hour, those are 2 entirely different types of use case scenarios. Again, I have a problem with no regulations actually existing to mandate companies on how they are obligated to report what the expected battery life will be. I mean, the electric cars have that regulation and you have to do it. Otherwise, you know, Volkswagen would just continue telling you, like, it goes 1,000 kilometers on a single charge if you don't drive it. Like, regulation is a good thing. And this type of regulation, I think, should apply to all electrical devices, because producers need to be held responsible legally for their claims and claims about their devices, so that we don't get to have that. This is like 3 weeks if you use it for 1 hour a day. Shh, come on, really? Like, come on. That's like, I don't know. And you're trying to target people who are in office and in meetings and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm too old with the grays, you know, here and there, obviously. But I use devices like this way way more than 1 hour a day. So for me, that type of thing just doesn't make sense, whether I use it for professional needs or if I'm reading, because I'm going to read way more than 1 hour a day. I'm definitely going to be writing way more than 1 hour a day. So yeah, probably it's just me. Let me know about you guys. How does that apply to you? This is regarding the Boox Go 10.3. Please make a comparison video between Boox Go 10.3 Gen 2 No Light and Go 10.3 Gen 2 Lumi, especially the reading experience, crispness and sharpness of the text in both models. Also, please tell if absence of light is a big issue, as if someone who wants to read it in a very low light would be frustrating that there is no light to help you read. That would be great, and thank you for your awesome content. Thank you for watching. So I've already made that video, and you can find it in the on the channel, where I just have the review of the Boox Go 10.3, and I pit against the front lit and non-front lit against each other, and I do a full DAF analysis, display analysis framework, where I do all of the testing, like writing latency, battery life, refresh time, ghosting, reflections, crispness, contrast, like all of it is like back to back. So you can go and check out and reference that video to see how it is. Regarding your other question is like, but you've answered it to yourself immediately in that question, because if you need the front light and you want to use the device in low light situations and you're not prepared to use external lighting, then you need the front light. I mean, it's as simple as that. I bought the Remarkable Paper Pro for my 12-year-old who was full of ideas but refused to write, always saying she didn't know what to write about. She was actually scared I'd force her to use it. I told her it was just for school. 1 year later, she has finished 3 500+ word plays and is currently 20 chapters into a book. That is fantastic, and thank you so much for sharing that. No one forces her. The device just removed the friction. It was such a great investment that I'm now getting her the Remarkable Paper Pro Move because it's smaller and more comfortable for her to carry around. Best thing I ever did for her creatively. Kudos to you. Absolutely. All kudos to you for recognizing and what your child's needs and potential is, and for treading around so carefully to let her actually explore and find her own way, but enabling it by making it actually possible, as you said, to remove the friction, which is so important, because tapping is absolutely horrible. Keyboard maybe a little bit better, but handwriting, that is as direct link that you will have to what's here and here, that it comes out through there. So it's totally fantastic to actually hear this type of a thing, and thank you so much for sharing this real world story, where it just puts it into context, where yeah, a device may have flickering, it may have faults, it may have this, it may have that, but none of it matters. If what it actually delivers is something like that, then none of it matters, because it's the device and the technology that actually made that possible. And in that moment of time, for this combination of people and everything, that's what you needed. And I think getting a Remarkable Paper Pro Move is a really good, no pun intended, move, because it's a natural extension, completely frictionless extension into her having tool at her disposal on the go, and then she can just do whatever she wants in the park, in the library, and then go back to the big old Remarkable Paper Pro and continue working. Now, only if Remarkable would have done it so that you could very seamlessly go from one notebook to another, I mean, you kind of can, but it's not really that great, then it would have been even better. But hey, this is better than nothing. So thank you so much for sharing this experience and sharing this story with us here. So that's it for this edition of Q&A. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye.